ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Namaskar my dear friends. This is first video on Isha Upanishad. This video starts with the introduction of Isha Upanishad. The Isha Upanishad forms the 40th chapter of the Vajasneyi Samhita of Shukla Yajurveda. The Upanishad, containing the Vedic philosophy, generally forms the concluding section of the Arnayaka, which in turn belongs to the Brahmana portion of the Vedas. The Isha Upanishad, however, is an exception, forming a part of the Samhita or Mantra. It derives its name from the opening word of the book, Ishavashyam, a short treatise consisting of only 18 mantras or verses. The Isha Upanishad appears to be a very ancient Upanishad, as is evidenced by its versification and literary style. The book contains many obscure passages which are explained differently by different commentators to suit their particular theories and systems. We are following the commentary of Shankaracharya, according to whom the path of action and the path of knowledge cannot be pursued by a person at one and the same time. The goal of the former is the attainment of happiness in the relative world, here or hereafter, and the goal of the latter, the realization of immortality through the knowledge of the identity of Brahma and Atman. But action, if performed following the instruction of the Vedas, ultimately prepares one for the cultivation of knowledge. The Isha Upanishad refers to both disciplines. The first verse states that the sense-perceived world is illusory. It appears to exist because Brahma, or the Absolute, pervades it both inwardly and outwardly, as gold pervades a gold ornament. The universe has no existence apart from Brahma. Brahma is identical with Atman. Therefore, the aspirant should see Atman in all beings and renounce greed and lust, which are based upon the mistaken notion that multiplicity is real and upon ignorance of the true nature of the self. But the second verse declares that those who are attached to earthly life and material enjoyment should perform duties in accordance with the direction of the scriptures. Verses 3 to 8 are meant for sannyasis who have realized the transitory nature of material pleasures and have renounced the world in order to attain the knowledge of Atma. Atma is pure consciousness, non-dual, immutable, transcendent, and indescribable by any qualification or predicate. The knower of Atma overcomes grief and delusion and loves all beings as his very self. Verses 9 to 14 apply to those who cannot ascend the steep path of total renunciation. Some among them engage in the mechanical performance of sacrifices and rituals without understanding the deities behind such action, and some devote themselves to meditation on the deities without the performance of appropriate rituals. According to the author of the Isha Upanishad, the two disciplines should be harmonized. Likewise, the aspirant should harmonize devotion to the unmanifest Prakriti and to the world soul Hiranyagarbha or Brahma. Thus alone can he reap the desired result, which is the attainment of Brahmaloka, where he will enjoy a kind of relative immortality as long as the cycle lasts. Afterwards, the aspirant will realize the absolute and thus become free from all relativity. The last four verses deal with the prayer of the aspirant on his deathbed. He prays to the sun, a vivid symbol of Brahma, to withdraw the outer physical light so that the inner effulgence of truth may be revealed. As the hour of death approaches, he fills his mind with the memories of his good deeds. The thoughts at the final moment determines the course of the soul hereafter. And lastly, he prays to fire which will soon consume his physical body to lead his soul through the way of the gods to Brahmaloka, from which he will attain final liberation. Sri Shankaracharya's introduction. Om, salutation to Brahma. The mantras beginning with Esavasham in the Upanishad are not to be used for ritualistic action because they reveal the true nature of Atma, which cannot be attained as a result of any action. It will be presently said that Atma in its real nature is pure, sinless, non-dual, eternal, incorporeal, and omnipresent, and therefore the knowledge of it is in conflict with work. Therefore, it is right to say that these mantras of the Isha Upanishad are not to be used in ritualistic action. Furthermore, Atma, as described above, cannot be connected with an action because it is not something that is attained, created, or produced through the process of purification or transformation, and also because it is not of the nature of a doer or an enjoyer. The sole purpose of all the Upanishads is to determine the true. The Isha Upanishad is a part of the mantra section of the Vedas, which deals with the sacrifices and other ritualistic action. But this Upanishad has no bearing upon rituals. It deals with the knowledge of Atma or Brahma. According to Sankara, action associated with such diverse factors as the doer, the instrument, and the result cannot be harmonized with the knowledge of Atma, which annihilates all multiplicity. If a man realizes that he is the pure and all-pervading spirit, the embodiment of peace, blessedness, and knowledge, and further, if he sees perfection everywhere, he cannot engage in any action. On the other hand, if he regards himself as a finite being, subject to birth and death, pain and pleasure, and the other pairs of opposites. He undertakes work to attain what is agreeable and shun what is disagreeable. By means of action, a previously non-existent thing, such as a jar or a pot, is created. Utpadaya, or one thing is transformed into another. Samkariya, like milk into curds, or a thing which exists but which is not within reach is attained. Apaya, or a thing is purified. Vikriya, by the elimination of its defects. All these possibilities are precluded in Atma because as the inmost self of all, it is eternal, unchanging, and pure. Nature of Atma, the Bhagavad Gita, and other treatises dealing with the man's liberation have the same end in view. Action has been prescribed in the scriptures to suit the understanding of worldly people who associate with Atma such characteristics as multiplicity, agency, enjoyment, impurity, sinfulness, and so on. According to those competent to determine who should perform work and who should not, he would seek the result of action, a result visible on earth such as the glories of a Brahmin's life, or a result not so visible, such an enjoyment in heaven, and who says to himself, I am twice born and free from such defects as blindness or a hunchback, which disqualify one for sacrificial work, is entitled to perform work. Compare he who sees the Supreme Lord abiding alike in all beings and not perishing when they perish. Verily he alone sees. Compare the self, though one and non-dual, appears to dwell in all beings like the moon, which, though one, is seen reflected in many waves. Mahabharata. The desire to seek a result is due to ignorance. Atma is in reality detached like the sky. Uncontaminated by sorrow, it is supreme bliss. Work which is undertaken to satisfy an unfulfilled desire, to obtain what is agreeable or to shun what is disagreeable, cannot therefore be associated with Atma. An explanation is necessary regarding the relationship between action and the knowledge of Atma. The term work is generally used in the Upanishads to mean sacrificial, ritualistic, and devotional action, or such philanthropic actions as the digging of a well or construction of a road, all of which are associated with the idea of a doer, an instrument, and an expected result. The knowledge of Atma, according to the Vedantic seers, reveals the unity of existence and enables one to realize that the self is always pure, free, illumined, and of the nature of existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, and that it is devoid of all the desires that belong to a finite being. Therefore, the knowledge of the self and the performance of work are incompatible. But there is an undeniable need of action for a man's spiritual evolution. Though his nature is that of infinite spirit, and yet he is ignorant of it and acts to all intents and purposes like a finite creature. The goal of spiritual discipline is the attainment of self-knowledge. The necessity of work for a man is emphasized by Hindu philosophers as long as on account of ignorance he identifies himself with the body and regards himself to be a finite being. Through the performance of unselfish action, his heart becomes pure and he develops a real desire to know Atma. Then he receives instruction from a qualified teacher, reasons about Atma and contemplates it. At last, in the depths of meditation, he realizes himself to be pure spirit, free from birth and death, grief and delusion, desire and action. He attains immortality. But an illumined soul is by no means inert. The seers of the Upanishads and Sankara himself were not inactive. Every moment of their lives was dedicated to the welfare of the world. The words action and inaction used in the Upanishads have a philosophical significance. The former is associated with the notions of I consciousness, the instrument of action, and therefore the mantras of the Isha Upanishad reveal the true nature of Atma and thereby destroy the natural ignorance regarding it. Further, they produce in us the knowledge of the oneness of Atma by means of which we can uproot grief, delusion, and other characteristics of samsara. One who is eager to rid himself of the suffering and delusion of samsara created by ignorance and attain supreme bliss is entitled to read the Upanishad. The true nature of Atma is its subject matter. The relationship between the treatise and the subject matter is that the former establishes the latter. The purpose served by the scripture is that it enables one to attain the knowledge of the identity of Atma and Brahma and thereby destroys grief and delusion, which are the result of ignorance. We shall now briefly explain the mantras. The result, the latter, is free from such notion. When an illumined person works, he clearly sees that the soul is inactive, the action being carried on by the sense organs, the mind and ego at the prompting of the three gunas. The Gita describes the wise man as one who sees inaction in action. In his case, knowledge and action are inseparable. Thus, in eating, sleeping, walking, and playing, he sees only the activities of the sense organs, the self remaining the unruffled witness. His ego has been completely burnt up in the fire kindled by the knowledge of the identity of Atma and Brahman, where an illumined person is seen to retain any I consciousness. It has been totally transformed by the knowledge of Brahma. Even while active, he never forgets the infinite nature of the self. Absence of I consciousness and total detachment from the result characterize the activities of a knower of the self. Invocation. Om, that is full, this is full, this fullness has been projected from the fullness. When this fullness merges in that fullness, all that remains is fullness. Om, peace, peace, peace. So I conclude this video here. Next video will start with the invocation. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar my dear